When I start working with someone for hip or low back pain, one of the things I want to evaluate is their ability to perform a hip hinge. So the hip hinge is really important because it allows your body to basically disassociate movement from the hips and pelvis from the low back. But it also, if done correctly, allows you to really effectively mobilize the backside of the hip that gets restricted in a lot of people. So in order to really effectively hip hinge, you actually have to be able to control the pelvis into a slight anterior pelvic tilt where that pelvis is tilted forward and the tailbone's lifted. Now, I know that pelvic position gets a lot of bad rap in the rehab world, but really that's the only way to truly load and lengthen the backside of the hip. So when I look at people's hip hinge form, a lot of people are stuck with their pelvis kind of under them. So when they go to hip hinge, what's happening is the pelvis is just staying under them. The stretch and the load is coming from the low back, and they're really not able to get much out of the backside of the hip. So what we need to do is teach that person then how to move and control the pelvis. And I don't start by doing that in a hip hinge. So what I want to do in this video is share with you how I teach that pelvic movement and then how we train it in the hip hinge. So the easiest way for most people to grasp this movement is going to be seated. And that's because the pressure of basically your butt on the bench or whatever is going to give you some feedback as to whether or not you're moving the pelvis. So what I instruct clients is, to start with, we're just going to call this your neutral. To move into an anterior pelvic tilt, which is what we're going to want for the hip hinge, you're going to think about tilting the pelvis forward, lifting your tailbone, and what should happen is pressure of your butt on the bench will kind of lift and get light. You may also feel like a little pressure in your low back because the low back is arching here and all those joints are compressing. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pull that pelvis underneath of you, and then what should happen here is pressure of your butt on the bench and your tailbone's going to get heavy. We've got kind of more weight now through that part of the body. Your low back is going to round as well. And then I'm going to just get you used to cycling back and forth between an anterior pelvic tilt and a posterior pelvic tilt, and just kind of get a feeling for what that movement feels like in this seated position. Then we're going to start working it from a standing position. And this is where I actually think kind of getting your hands to hook onto your pelvis can help, because you'll be able to feel if you're actually getting this movement. So you're going to think about just kind of tilting the pelvis forward, lifting the tailbone. You'll feel pressure in your low back here. And then you're going to pull that pelvis underneath of you, tucking your tailbone. Low back will kind of round, and just kind of cycling back and forth between those two movements. So to put all of that together into a hinge, I like to use a kickstand hinge. The reason is because it's really biasing single side, which will help you tease out side to side differences. So let's say I'm going to mobilize and work my left hip here. My other foot's going to be my kickstand leg. It's propped up on my toes just as a point of balance, but most of my body weight is on this left leg. Now, as I go to hinge into my hips, we want to be mindful that we're keeping our body weight forward over the laces or the arch of our foot, and we're not just riding back on our heels and straightening the knee. That's really important to make sure you're doing that. So what we're going to do is we've got our weight forward. We're going to ever so slightly lift the tailbone, and then we're going to hinge back. And as I do that, I'm really thinking about lifting the glute, and you should feel a lot of length through here. Weight is still forward over our midfoot. Now, when we go to come up, this is really important, especially for people navigating low back pain. We want to be able to recruit the muscles that we're lengthening on the back side of the hip, and not just extending and lifting through the spine. So what you're going to do at the bottom of your hinge is you're going to start squeezing this glute, and you're going to use that glute now to just drive your hips forward. So if this video was helpful for you, if you're navigating hip dysfunction or low back dysfunction, drop a line in the comments below. Let me know if this was helpful. Let me know what other topics you'd like to see videos on. And then make sure to follow along with my channel for more education on how to keep your body healthy and injury-free so that you can continue to train without limitation in the gym.